One of my gripes about the X-E4 was how the custom settings in this camera are completely different than any other Fujifilm camera. Custom settings up until this point were all about changing the visual style, the visual characteristics of your photo by changing the film simulation, the color, contrast, things like that. Now, the custom settings include everything else, including the shooting settings, focus settings, and more. And while that sounds really cool, if you're photographing sports and then go to landscapes, you can change those over and then adjust your focus and shooting settings for those two genres, which is really great to be able to do quickly. If you've been used to the old system for years, like I have been, and you use it a lot to change your image styling, this new setup in the X-E4 can really trip you up, and it's really tripped me up. So what I want to do here is just go through an overview of how the new custom setting system is set up, how to work with it, and how to make sure that it doesn't bite you in the ass at the wrong time. So if you haven't seen it already, the new custom settings structure in the X-E4, in addition to the image quality settings, you can now save all of the image quality settings, including the image size, raw recording, things like that, and the autofocus, manual focus setting, shooting setting, and flash setting menus. Now, it's not just that you can save these things to a custom setting, but you also must save these things to a custom setting. RAW only photographers may be rejoicing at this because the camera now behaves more like every other conventional camera, where custom settings are now all about specific camera settings and not the JPEG styling, which RAW photographers don't care about. One of the things that we loved about Fujifilm cameras is that they're not like other conventional cameras. I think it's safe to say that many, if not the majority, of Fujifilm consumer photographers love the custom settings for altering the visual style of the photo. And for those people, this new custom setting structure in the X-E4 is a complete disaster. I have a love-hate relationship with this new system. I love the idea of being able to save all of those other settings to a custom setting, but I hate that I must do it. Fujifilm, if you're listening, at least give us an option to choose whether or not we save these things to a custom setting. Because now I have to assign a focus mode, a shutter type, etc. I have to save all of those to a visual style, to my film recipes, as a lot of other photographers refer to them. So let's just say that as a default, I chose to save the single shot autofocus, focus mode, mechanical shutter, and auto ISO program 3 to a custom setting because I was forced to pick one. So that's what I chose. AFS, mechanical shutter, auto ISO number 3. Now I'm out photographing with my camera, and for whatever reason, based on the scene in front of me, I went into manual focus mode with a electronic shutter. I set a 2-second timer, and I changed my auto ISO program to auto 2 because those are the settings that I deemed appropriate for the scene in front of me. Then I say, I wonder what this would look like with my classic Chrome preset. So I go into the Q menu, I switch it over to my classic Chrome preset, and now my focus mode is reset to AFS, my self timer turns off, my shutter type is back to the mechanical shutter, my auto ISO program resets to auto ISO 3. So now to get all of those back, I have to go into the menus and try to remember, well, what were all those things that I changed? And change all of those. Now you can put all of these common menu items into my menu or the Q menu so that you can more rapidly change them without having to go through every single little submenu. But that's just extra steps that we shouldn't have to make if the custom settings are supposed to be all about the visual style. So let's look at how to program these image quality settings because it is a little different and there's a bug in the current firmware as of this video recording. So normally you would go through all of your image quality settings and change them how you wanted for that custom setting. Now you have to go into your autofocus manual focus menu and your shooting setting menu and change everything as you want them for that custom setting. And then go into the final page of the image quality setting menu to edit save custom setting. Select which of those 7 slots you want to assign these settings, highlight create new and press OK. In the confirmation dialog that comes up, press OK again, and now that custom setting is created with your current camera settings. At least that's what the manual says is supposed to happen, and happens in every other Fujifilm camera, but it does not happen with this current firmware. You go into that custom setting that you just created and go into Edit Check, you will see that all of the settings were reset to the camera defaults as it comes from the factory. I spent an hour on the phone with Fujifilm talking about this. They have sent it up to the higher ups. I don't know if or when a firmware update will be released to address this, but for now, when you create custom settings, you have to do it in the Edit Check menu. Go through every single page in the Edit Check menu, put your eyes on every single setting to make sure that they're saved the way you want them to be, so that you're not surprised by some obscure shooting setting being changed when you go to a different custom setting. And in this menu, at any other time, this is how you will also edit your custom settings if you want to tweak them a little bit. I would also strongly recommend you go down to Edit Custom Name to assign that custom setting a name. You'll remember what that custom setting is for. So if you have base camera settings like a RAW recording that's different from the factory defaults that you want to use for all of your custom settings, you can copy a custom setting that you created, go into that menu, select Copy, and then select the new slot that you want to copy those settings to. In that new copy that you just created, go into the Edit Check menu there, and then you can refine the settings that you want from that copy. And then there's the Auto Update Custom Setting option, which has driven me completely bonkers with both of the options available here. If Auto Update Custom Setting is enabled, any camera settings you change while working within a custom setting, those changes will be automatically saved to that custom setting. So if we go back to that example in the beginning of this video, if my custom setting normally used single shot autofocus, mechanical shutter, no self timer, auto ISO program 3, and then for the situation in front of my camera, I have changed it to manual focus with the electronic shutter and a 2-second timer and auto ISO program 2. Now those are my new saved settings for that particular custom setting I was working in. And so if you're not aware of this, you're going to be editing your custom settings when you change camera controls without even knowing it. So yeah, you can disable this setting if you don't want those changes to be automatically saved to your custom setting. Disable Auto Update Custom Setting. So we disable that. We go back to our previous example. I change my camera settings back to manual focus, 2-second timer, electronic shutter, auto ISO program 2, because that's appropriate for the situation I'm photographing. And then I turn my camera off in the middle of the shoot. I turn my camera back on again. Everything is reset back to how that custom setting was originally saved. So I have to go back into all of those settings and change them back to how I wanted them for that particular scenario. So none of these options are really preferable for me, but now that you know what they do, you can select the one that is the least intrusive for you. Now, if you do like those changes that you made to that custom setting with auto update disabled, you can go into that custom setting menu and then select save the changes. It will save all of those changes to that custom setting, or you can reset the changes back to that custom setting. Anything with a red dot indicates that was changed from how that custom setting was saved. And so that's when you have to go in and save that change if you want it to be permanent. If you want to start over from scratch, you can go into that custom setting menu, select erase, and then everything will be reset. You'll need to go back in and create new for that custom setting and then edit it the way you want it. And then under select custom setting in the image quality menu, you'll also see a nothing selected option. If you just want to have kind of like free reign to adjust your settings however you want them without dealing with this auto update enabled or disabled or whatever, then you can choose nothing selected. and then just change your settings as appropriate. I hope this all made sense. Practice with the new system, get used to it, don't miss the shot. And if you have any questions or comments about any of this, please leave them below in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.